This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
U.S. net crude oil imports are forecast to fall by 20% next year to 1.9 million barrels per day, their lowest since 1971, the Energy Information Administration said on Tuesday, pointing to higher U.S. production and lower refinery demand. The EIA expects the United States to produce 13.52 million barrels of oil per day of oil in 2025, up from 13.24 million barrels of oil per day in 2024. It said in its December short-term energy outlook. Meanwhile, U.S. refiners are set to process 16 million barrels of oil per day of crude oil in 2025, down by 200,000 barrels of oil per day compared with 2024, the EIA said.
Oil prices rose on Wednesday, with market participants expecting demand to rise in China, the world's largest crude importer, after Beijing announced it would relax monetary policy to try to stimulate economic growth. Brent crude futures gained 24 cents, or 0.3%, to $72.43 a barrel by 0730 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 24 cents, or 0.4%, to $68.83. China said on Monday it would adopt an appropriately loose monetary policy in 2025 as Beijing tries to spur its economy with the first easing of its stance in 14 years.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
U.S. power producers have raised total generation to new highs in 2024, fueled mainly by record natural gas-fired output alongside a sharp jump in generation from renewable sources. Natural gas plants remain the key pillar of U.S. generation, accounting for a record 42% of total power production from January through November, according to LSEG. That gas share will likely hold steady in December. However, utilities have also deployed record volumes of clean power, with clean energy sources on track to generate over 40% of total annual power output for the first time this year.
Dutch and British wholesale gas prices were a touch firmer on Wednesday morning as an ongoing cold spell and low wind supported demand and unplanned outages curtailed some Norwegian supply. The benchmark front-month contract at the Dutch TTF hub was up €0.15 at 45.70 euros per megawatt-hour, MWh, or $14.08, MMBTU, at 0911 GMT. The Dutch day-ahead contract was up €0.30 at 45.80 euros per megawatt-hour. In Britain, the day-ahead contract gained 0.55 pence to 113.25 pence per therm. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Copper prices fell on Wednesday in response to a stronger U.S. dollar, pairing gains that drove the market to one-month highs on expectations leading commodities consumer China will relax monetary policy to spur economic growth. Benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange was down 0.5% at $9,175 a metric ton at 10:27 GMT from an earlier $9,314 a ton, the highest since November 12. The dollar is dominating trading, a copper trader said, adding that the market was also focused on China's annual Central Economic Work Conference expected to be held this week.
The share of available aluminium stocks of Russian origin in warehouses approved by the London Metal Exchange, LME, rose to 67% in November from 65% in October, while the share of Indian origin edged up to 32% from 30%, LME data showed on Tuesday. On warrant, aluminium stocks in LME-registered warehouses of all origins fell by 6% in November to 380,400 metric tons. The stocks jumped in May following a decision by the LME to ban all Russian aluminium, copper and nickel produced from April 13 from its system to comply with US and British sanctions imposed over Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India has lowered the limit of wheat stocks that traders and millers can hold, the government said on Wednesday, to help boost availability and moderate prices that hit a record high this month. Traders can now hold only 1,000 metric tons of wheat, against 2,000 metric tons earlier, the statement said. The government has also tightened stock holding limits for wheat processors to 50% of their monthly installed capacity.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.